lay down the shatter. Let the bodies hit the floor. Uprising Academy at 95%.
Right now with Hydra building up to this Bear Barrage so quickly.
Oh!
And asking!
Double kill in the back with the pulse bomb from the high ground. Aerial assault with that mine.
Impact se escucha de abajo gritar campeón a Sky Foxes.
Holy cow.
And after 42 consecutive losses, the Shanghai Dragons get their first win.
8 teams enter this weekend.
Oh no, Reinhardt, what are you doing?
We got a clip with minimal information. It's time to break it down. Speed, 25%. Go, figure out what this man's SR is.
Keep fighting till it's for sure lost. Winnable! Hello and welcome. The time is now, friends. We bring you day 2 of NA Contenders Trials. We have an exciting match lined up for you today, and I will be here casting with the one, the only, amazing man of class. I am Rich Rad, man of class. We got a great matchup today between these two teams.
Oh, we do. It's Lunaris versus Infamous. Both teams roaring to go. They, I mean, they're hot. I would say they're ready. I definitely would. And both teams actually, especially Infamous. Am I saying that correctly? Yeah, especially Infamous making some swaps during their off season. They had a while after Open Division, which they, almost won to get here. And they added 2 new tanks, specifically Moose and Infernal. And that's very exciting in this current patch because Moose, former Clockwork Vendetta player, and then I think Vasta Gaming as well, known to be a phenomenal Roadhog player. And if we know one thing about the current patch, that is someone to look out for.
Yeah, with this new patch, I mean, granted, to be fair, yesterday, we didn't really see too much of the Roadhog present itself. We saw almost like highlights of it here and there, right? Because it mainly still revolved around the Winston Zarya, which is a very, very stellar composition for that tank lineup right now. But again, when the Roadhog does present itself, it's still a very vital role that can be filled, especially when you've got somebody like Moose stepping in here with such an expertise on this type of character to compete against a team like Lunaris.
Yeah, and I think that's also really the big deal, right? It's like because everyone starts playing Roadhog as like a main tank or something like that. But if you know the fragging power and like the actual minutia of Roadhog's kit, which a player like Moose definitely should, you might actually see some different strategies evolving around a hero like that. But when we look at Lunaris, see completely different team here than, of course, Infamous is. Lunaris actually had to got to enjoy their time while they didn't make it through Contenders last time. They also didn't have to go through Open Division again, so they've had a lot of time to reflect on why didn't we get to Contenders last time. And every single time they play another league of these Path to Pro, they do get a step further. First they were in OD, now they were in Trials, and now maybe from Trials to go to Contenders. It's possible. So Lunaris ready to show that, and their roster has gone largely unchanged since their first iteration, like months ago. So they should definitely have the capacity to bring the pain, so to speak.
Continuing to take that step in advancement is always the best way to go. But again, you're going against a team, like you said, who is very knowledgeable in this Roadhog meta presently. So, I mean, I would definitely say that going into this, the key thing to at least watch out more for Infamous, because again, you said 2 months ago, a little bit longer, that, Lunaris has kept their same roster. They're continuing to grind it out. Their communication and their ability to play with one another will be continuing to grow. Their synergy is always on the rise. But with Infamous, it's going to be a lot riding on these tank shoulders to really lead this team into the right direction and how their coordination will present itself going into these first few maps.
Yeah, and starting today, it's going to be Ilios. We have a first to 3 series going on, so at least going to see Ilios, then we're going to see Volskaya and Hollywood. But if necessary, we still have some maps in the bank. We have, for instance, Route 66 as a map 4, and as a map 5, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be Busan. So Yeah, it's a nice map pool to round everything out today. 'Cause a lot of diversity there. Some with a lot of high ground, some with more, narrow streets and corridors to get through. So it's definitely a map where we can see variety from the teams if they want to show it. But also a map pool that can be forgiving if you want to keep running very similar styles of composition. You don't have to swap it up if you don't want to. And that will be very telling as well between the teams. Maybe since Infamous does have 3 tanks online, they have Moose as that more Roadhog specialist type of player. Maybe they will swap the player of Akash back in when they don't want to play the Roadhog anymore. And on Lunaris' side, they should be ready for everything. They have 6 players on the roster, but that's really all they need. Like we said, they've been together for longer, and yeah, I mean, their roster is just looking very strong still. There's nothing really that can be said about Lunaris. It feels like that's where their weak spot is right now. So it's all up to Infamous to really find that weak spot and exploit it, or put Lunaris in an uncomfortable position where they're the ones that have to adapt.
And it's really going to come down to, I think, that initial type of composition to this. Again, we talked a little bit about it yesterday. There wasn't really too much relevancy when it came to the Hog. It still showed itself. But the other dynamic, there was a few occasions where we saw it was this wrecking ball kind of filling in for the Winston with Azaria. A little bit of a different dynamic. It has a lot more, presence. It has a lot more crowd control, being able to maneuver individuals around on your opponent's side while still getting the barrier from the Zarya. So there's some utilization of that. And again, that's just one of those rare adjustments and adaptations to a composition that people are really starting to find going into this. Now that the patch has been live, even with a few adjustments and tweaks from it, some of them were a little bit over-tuned for nerfs and then, brought back and reeled in. So as we go into this, we might still even see some potential usage of Orisa and those other characters that we thought were so heavily nerfed at the start, but have been revamped to just only be slightly nerfed.
Yeah, exactly. And patch that came in yesterday, for anyone who's wondering, that's not what we're playing on right now. We're still playing pre that patch, so not really where we're back on the Orisa got the extra meter on the hold, not quite back where Fire does for fire recovery. We're still on the, I would say the right patch, but we're still on the patch that you're more familiar with at least. And we actually see Pure come out on the D.Va here. That's a new one.
Yeah, we had a little bit of it yesterday. It was really just that heavy dive composition. You've got Tree and this, Tracer play from Light. There is so much to get harassed in the back. Slogo is actually going to get an early pick on to that nice Genji play. Does get rezzed by Kitty King, so it's still a 6 versus 6. There's a great hook, though, coming out from Moose, demonstrating that quick wit to grab on the side. And now this rotation down to the point. Lunaris is attempting to at least take it first, but because the numbers advantage are still in favor of Infamous, they can recontest this and continue to force Lunaris back.
So far, good opening, and Moose is running around on that Hog, but it's interesting to see that dive take the point first.
Yeah, and with how heavy, nice recovery from there, the Nano Boost is actually going to come out onto Moose to give some extra assistance, but Light gets the double kill on the Tracer with the Pulse Bomb, and you thought it was easily going to maybe be a recontest for Infamous having the numbers advantage, but Lunaris perseveres with this full 6 that they had regrouped and claim this point and consistently climb over 30.
I like that heads-up play to give Moose that whole Hog, Nano Hog. It's just insane, the amount of damage you put out with that with the CC. But now we're going to get into an old fight where you just invested a few ultimates if you're Infamous, and Lunaris has banked up everything but the Pulse Bomb and the Coalescence.
As we continue to see some peppered damage here, the Coalescence, you're going to actually have the EMP coming out first onto 4. Zai is going to go down early, no ability to escape under that EMP control. The res comes through once again, though. Kitty King always there consistently to get this team back online with a full 6 for a solid recontest. Valkyrie was committed along with the grab as a whole, but you've now at least got Volby on the opposite side from Lunaris trying to harass with the Primal Rage finally reaching its end. Is there enough damage to pick these off? The Focus Fire is a little off here to get some execution as it's 70%. You need Infamous to get a pick into this moving forward for them to have some kind of opportunity. But Lunaris using and stacking both support ultimates here. A little bit of overcommittance, I feel, as Sai finally gets some value on this Reaper, and hopefully that Infamous can now snowball with that.
Yeah, Infamous should be able to retake here. Tree does try with another EMP, built that up incredibly fast, actually. This will be the recontest and the retake for Infamous here. They're going to get some percent going eventually, but they're already down 96% actually. And the good thing about this, though, is when you look at those ult percentages that looked so good for Lunaris before, they're now looking very grim and in the favor of Infamous. So that's a good start to go. But so far, I've really been liking the way that Infamous is sort of waiting until they get engaged on, and then just bounce back. That's really what they're best at with this comp, is wait for the Roadhog to get that hook.
When you have Tree in the back looking to get some early harassment on that Ashe play over top by Cohesion. Also, it's Sai getting overwhelmed by both the Tracer and Sombra play from Light and Tree. Rez once again, though, by Kitty King to get this fight still in Infamous's favor. The whole hog comes out from Moose, forcing back this aggression, and Lunaris is actually unable to do anything because of that Mercy Rez.
Now, you're really looking at a composition here from Infamous, which, you know, it's not quite what we see often. I mean, the Roadhog Zarya maybe, but then you have the Reaper and the Ashe and the Ana, the Mercy with it. Like, there's a lot going on here that might be throwing Lunaris off kilter a little bit. And a lot of that revolves around his playing on that objective, using all those windows with the individual duelists.
And transitioning now onto the point to compete against it. The grab comes through onto the pillar, pulling multiple members towards that center side. Infernal gets that kill onto Noctis, which is huge to take down that support. The follow through as well. And honestly, this is an opportunity to take it back into the overtime. You had Lunaris strip it away for a hot second, but it's not going to be hot enough as they're at 70%. This is final fight territory for Lunaris.
They're actually fine here on the side of Infamous. They will actually even have that Death Blossom just drop down on the enemy. And are they going to expect it? Is Pure going to be ready with the defense matrix? Will Tree maybe get a hack off? There's a lot of question marks there. Yes, you are close to those ultimates, but will you even get a chance to get them off at this stage?
Yeah, I honestly, at this point, you've got Lunaris having the short end of the stick. You get the pick early, Light goes down. Bulby has to force out the Primal Rage, but is slept. You see the baby Z's floating on the overlay as that Gorilla's not going to be able to get a pick at all. Bob comes through from the side, manages to get it stuck into the corner. The boop to reposition the Winston, has the jump available, but Bulby instantly obliterated on this point. 99-99 in the overtime. Sai has the Death Blossom as an insurance policy, but it's truly not necessary and only going to use it for funsies. With this hack coming in late, it is just going to be a tall order for Lunaris to do anything, and this will be Infamous's point to start this first round off.
It really does look like it. There is some recontest, though. You know, a Wrecking Ball can be fairly annoying, especially if there's not hot DPS there. But there is a nano on Moose. Looks like they will start cleaning this up more and more, but it's taken them an awful long time. That's something that could be exploited in the future. Gotta watch out for that, Infamous. Gotta clean up your plate.
Not only that, but we also have to talk about how Lunaris has to clean up and maintain the focus on the Mercy. You made the comment of where you don't get to see the Mercy too often in this type of composition. The fact that there were 3 substantial reses to keep Infamous in this fight was truly an aid to them taking that first round, especially that late one where you saw the early pick come out in the back and then the counter fire from that DPS line from Cohesion, making it, again, a longer stagger onto Lunaris.
Yeah, I definitely like the way Cohesion played around that Winston. It was consistently trying to engage on them. When they're on top of the lighthouse, first of all, they were slept, which hit a beautiful sleep dart. They just hit one shot, they walk down, they go behind the point, they go back up on the point, they even use the Bob to zone them out. Now it's going to be a very different lineup, at least... actually, it's not really going to be that much different. It's basically Cohesion going off to the Echo. That's the big difference here.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how Lunaris is going to be able to respond to this, because the Echo hasn't seen too much play time, at least so far, but now going to get that focus beam on the back line, harassing, and even exchange 1-for-1. You lose your heavy mobility tank, but again, Kitty King allowing that res coming through. Nobody from Lunaris focuses it, and the numbers advantage, and the cleanup come out again from Infamous.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we've seen Pharah really come in, we've seen it a few times in the European region at least, a lot of the time teams counter that Pharah with an Echo Mercy or just with an Echo in general, because to a lot of players, a lot of people, that Echo still feels like a better Pharah in a lot of ways, where you have a lot of damage that you can effectively put out and then still have that ultimate to just throw a wrench into the plans of the enemies, because you're essentially getting 3 lives at that point. So very much liking this pick from Cohesion. Still hasn't shown up that much, but we'll see where the feed goes.
Still getting some decent ultimate charge, keeping up with the rest of the team. You've got Sai a little bit ahead, at least for the Death Blossom. Comes in over top, does get the nano to increase that rate at which that the Death Blossom has been generated as a focus on the supports, but can't really find the right trajectory because everyone is so far away, and all the while you lose the DPS from Sai as the collapse comes out from Lunaris. Those backline DPS from Light and Tree manage to get quite a bit of value. Light picks up another on his Sai, and this is a numbers advantage for Lunaris and a fight for Infamous to try and attempt to contest, but it will not happen.
I think Infamous is definitely gonna have to give this one up fairly soon. They will be unhappy with it. I mean, they got first control, 51%. You're looking to be good with your ultimates for a while. You're really looking up to Lunaris to still find an answer, like a real answer to what Infamous is throwing at you. Because Moose and Infernal have been very hard to catch, and even when you catch them, there's still Sai and Cohesion just sneaking around a map. Kitty King now goes over to the Brigitte, though, probably feeling a bit threatened by the Tracer.
Oh, well, in addition to the Tracer, you also have the EMP landing onto 3. Sai goes down, but there's a nice even exchange with Moose getting the pick onto the support line. Noctis leaving that fight instantly. Sluggo has a lot riding on their shoulders to keep this team of Lunaris alive. The pulls correction. Pure is actually going to get taken down amongst that, with Moose continuing to get that shrapnel. Almost gets the hook onto Light, but is evaded. But that melee says otherwise. And that's a switchback now here coming through. Infamous able to take it away as long as those stragglers are picked off the point. And at this rate, Lunaris just needs to try and draw this out to get some extra percentage, and they're doing quite a great job of it.
I'm really liking this tank line. Oh, this whole hog is going to push him off the point as well. Moose under pressure, though, will probably... Nope. Has the reactor breather. Of course, he's fine.
Yep, totally fine, and gets a hook as well. There's the cleanup. It finally is going to favor Infamous. But Lunaris still gets the 66%, 2/3 of the way, and they're feeling confident for that last turnaround.
Yeah, they should be able to get this with 1.5 fights if they really, if they're able to. But percents equalize. Both teams don't have that far to go anymore. And I'm really liking the way that Infernal uses their Gravitons. They really don't go for any big grabs. It's just like, we get a tank, we're happy, just kill it, and we're probably gonna win the fight after. That's really what it's about. You don't have the tanks to make space or peel for your backline or your DPS. You're usually gonna lose fights here, and that's what Moose and Inferno are really focusing on. Take down Bulby, take down Pure.
Yep, and once they are gone, it is just a matter of time, and with the matter of time remaining 15 seconds to go for this last few percentage, the EMP does connect onto both tanks, Infernal and Moose, but Moose still survives. The healers overhead, along with the nano boost, and Rally committed here from that change-up, going from the Mercy to the Brig for that more close in combat engagement. There's a boot, though. Cohesion manages to jump out of there, does not get picked off, but Primal Rage is also going to cause a lot of harassment to the back. It's 99 to 66. The overtime will continue to go for moments longer, but with the Death Blossom claiming 2 from Sai and Moose cleaning up with another hook, that will be a second round take, with Infamous claiming this first control map of Ilios.
You saw as well how afraid Lunaris were of Sai there. Sai gets nanoed on the Reaper, which does a lot of damage, but they know that Sai has that Death Blossom. So Lunaris is like trying to kite around, like, oh, is he gonna? Is he not gonna Death Blossom? Is he? And eventually he doesn't really have to, because they just keep running away from him. And that puts them all in different positions. That means that Infamous can choose their targets to chase down. And once again, especially those tanks are just getting outplayed at this point. Infamous and Moose are just showing them up. And that's really what the Roadhog can bring if you know how to play around it. And Moose has undoubtedly explained to Infamous exactly what he wants to do and what they have to do in return.
And to build on it even further, it's not only Moose working so well with Infernal on the front line and coordinating, as those 2 new tank lineup. We talked about that they are the brand new tanks coming in to fill this role, and they are stepping up for this. But again, huge props to Kitty King. Like, I've been really focusing on that support play, and it's been yielding so much value for this team, and it's fueling the front line even further. Also with Switch and those really clever positions to keep Moose alive whenever it's a less advantageous type of engagement or position. When that EMP came out earlier onto Moose and Infernal, there was no way to survive through it. Switch and Kitty King working in tandem to make sure that you have Moose at least still alive already with that additional help of the take a breather. So there's been a lot to really focus on for Infamous. And with that also said, you have to now look at how can Lunaris counter this type of tank line and the supports really fueling it.
Yeah, honestly, that's what it's about. And they've been trying, right? You saw it especially on Lighthouse, where consistently Bulby's trying to get on Kitty King and Cohesion. He's trying to get on somewhere. But Switch has been indeed very untouched. It's very hard to find Switch in the midst of the battle because they're taking such, I mean, almost odd positions, right? They're consistently changing angles, finding a new spot to go to because they have to keep Moose alive. And Moose is not playing in normal positions because it's a Roadhog, so he doesn't really do what other tanks do in a lot of situations. That whole dynamic of like where they're supposed to be is usually not where they are. And Lunaris is sometimes searching for those targets a little too long, and that just gives too much opening for those tanks to really get anything done. So now that we go to Volskaya, where that chaos is usually a bit less, where you have the more organized play, when you have a proper defense and a proper offense situation, that whole dynamic might shift a little. It might change up how you're actually able to counter the Roadhog, how you're able to get on the supports. So this could be a good situation for Lunaris, who have to actually also attack first, but they still have to show that they can actually do that.
And, I mean, with them attacking first, we're going to see a lot of pressure onto Switch. I'm curious to see how Kitty King is going to respond to this, because we saw towards the later portion of the control map where it adjusted to the Brigitte to get a little bit more of that crowd control, have some sustain just in case Switch needs it, because the dive composition focused more on the Ana, since they were a very slippery support in the back, uncontested. And, you know, they're still going to look to keep the same composition. They've got the Lucio for the movement speed, along with the Tracer and the Sombra. Even though we're still given a few more seconds as those doors will open, that's still very critical to see how they're going to coordinate this to try and bring down this team of Infamous.
And if they see this, they might, of course, swap. I mean, the Sombra's going to check and say, like, oh, are we actually going to run this? But looks like they're pretty set on what they want to do in most situations. They will have Tree go over to that Reaper. Probably want to do a bit more to counter that Roadhog, but is that the answer? Not quite sure.
Well, there's going to be some early light pepper damage here from Light, and instantly trying to find Switch. That's what I was talking about with that no assistance from the Brigitte. If Light can continue to harass the support line, making Infamous lose that frontline healing, that's going to allow Tree to get enough damage to take down Moose or even Infernal.
They definitely trust Switch enough to just give Kitty King the mercy to damage Moose Cohesion, that's for sure.
And with this small Mega Room going to be maintained by Infamous, playing it very slow and very well to try and force Lunaris into this den, and will find themselves being consumed, especially with Cohesion flanking around the high ground, picking off the stragglers. That reposition, interesting by Tree. Will acknowledge that you went into the center of the team, but wants to maybe just reset. 3 minutes to go, 1 minute off the clock, and Lunaris had an interesting first engage.
So I do understand what you want to do with Tree and the Reaper, right? You want to keep them guessing a bit more with the teleports. You want to be able to sustain your close range engage a bit more with that Reaper damage. But in all honesty, when you see where Infamous is holding in that Mega Health Pack room, nothing else you really have wants to fight there. You want to drag them in the open, and I don't think this is the way to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. There's still some coordinated movement, though, by Lunaris across that catwalk, making sure that Cohesion is in check. Not yet committing the dive yet. Comes in from the side. There's a lot of focus up front from the D.Va as the Winston comes through. Light actually finds a roundabout position to compete. Kitty King here now looking for the res, comes through with it just in time to get Cohesion back online as Moose forces out that whole hog. A lot of ultimates committed here. Lunaris led first with the pulse bomb, but in the end, Infamous is still finding much more value here and resets Lunaris a second time. And now we're reaching that halfway point in time, and Lunaris, if they're going to make any swaps, it has to... Oh,
yes. Right now. It's time. And the Roadhog is big enough that she can't get out.
Oh, no!
Pure agony over here.
So bad, man! But it's so strategic.
It's the
That's
best.
30
and Roadhog
seconds.
is so good at that. Roadhog is so good at that. Yeah, 30 seconds, just saying. Sorry. Yeah. Pain.
I mean, it's
pain.
so hard. I mean, you're all feeling it out there, chat, just like we are. I mean, seriously, let's try and put ourselves in the shoes right now, and those shoes are definitely unfortunate. But as we now look for that regroup, we've got 60 seconds just over it. The thing to look forward to is trying to find something of value with Noctis leading it with the sound barrier to try and gain the advantage over Infamous.
Oh, needs to have a pretty good sound barrier as well, because there's so much online on the side of Infamous. Just that grav alone can mess you up if you want to do anything with a sound barrier.
And you're going to see the hesitation, but it throws it out from the high ground. But the sound barrier does come in to reply by Noxus. Perfectly used here to try and counter that Graviton as it finally fades. The blade comes through here by Psy in the back, managing to get the dash reset, but can't seem to find the value with the slash as you've got a crazy, crazy Primal Rage going in the backside and jumps off. Actually, well, gets Coach Gun, I believe, off the edge there with Kitty King resetting 25 seconds. You only have the self-destruct and the Death Blossom. Maybe. Oh, and you're going to forfeit that for a Widow right now? Okay.
I mean, when you see an entirety of Infamous just always sort of running away from you, being on the other side of the map, I guess that Widowmaker might not be a weird pick, but you know that Psy's there. Psy is going to jump on top of Widowmaker and say, well, that's a tasty treat, gimme.
I like spiders. Spiders are good. In some cultures, they are a specialty, as you now see an early pick coming through where Pure takes out that Genji in the backside and Sluggo finds Switch. Early exchange back and forth as Noctis gets a double boop off the edge to equalize here, and that's going to now leave only the tanks remaining for Infamous. That Mega Pack is not going to be enough, and Lunaris comes out of nowhere to take this away.
And it's really that, just out of nowhere. There's no logic to how they just, I mean, there's logic to it, but not in the way that it worked. I mean, Psy now goes over to the Torbjorn. I mean, I get it's better than the Genji, maybe. Psy was doing work on the Genji, especially with that blade, but the last fight just got taken out, and now they're just going to try and stop the snowball with that turret, just being an annoyance in the back line.
And you've got Tree more trying to be the nuisance, does get one, but instantly picked off by Psy. Torbjorn is down, but there's still some value to be had by the rest of the team as Kitty King gets that Psy Torbjorn back online. Whole Hog is going to separate this and make a great gap for recovery, and that's a huge momentum slow when you've got a Hog ultimate light and you just dirty Moose.
Moose doesn't miss. That's just not what Moose does. Moose is a hungry Hog. He will get those dumplings every single time. He cannot win that feed fight. So now, momentum broken, snowball stopped. What is Lunaris gonna do? They're gonna switch light over to the Ashe. That's not a weird swap, very logical. You know, the Ashe just does a lot more damage usually and gets in and out a bit easier. Can find a bit closer with the team, has the Bop as a tool. Light actually goes back over to Tracer, so what do I know?
Yeah,
but yeah,
they're in a real difficult position for it, too.
They really don't know at some point, right? They look a bit confused. But Tree is on that Reaper again. I don't think the Reaper is necessarily a bad pick. You have to get there first, while the rest of your team doesn't really want to get there. They want to kite around. So it's a bit of an odd choice to have the Reaper be so up close, while the rest of the team doesn't want to be that close.
And you've got Bulby running quickly to the back line with that leap to be close to the back line. You've got Kitty King, though, looking to evade. Bob going to come through to get Pure while the self-destruct was still out on the point, and the Valkyrie will secure not only the damage boost, but the heal as well. Now that there is the support ultimate's gone, solely relying on the Torbjorn and Moose once again for a whole Hog, Lunaris has to take advantage of this.
Yeah, it's going to be Lunaris that has to capitalize now. This is their last fight. I mean, they might get a very quick one and then a re-engage in like 10 seconds, but this is realistically the last fight that they have to really get it. And they keep swapping up heroes. Now Light and Tree are on the Ashe and the Hanzo. Yes, they get more long-range instant kill potential, but you're losing out on so many other resources that you don't have. And maybe you're just trying to confuse Infamous. Maybe that's what you're going for, but are they going to really be that confused by this?
Well, Psy barely skirts by the skin of their teeth to survive through that arrow to the dome, and you've got now Moose leading in with this whole Hog, forcing them back, also having the Molten Core, both ultimates committed to this. So now it's really just going to be sheer ability control and coordination from Infamous. Lunaris has to fall back, 5 seconds to go. There is already so many picks coming out. You've got Pure on the point to try and keep it into the overtime, and it barely occurs. The Primal Rage forced out from Bulby, and that's going to be a completion here only of point A and a couple of ticks onto B. So with all due respect, getting to 90.4 is still something to be proud of, to at least attempt slowing Infamous to try and claim this third and final point. And there now, as the overtime finally wicks away, that will be a hold here from Infamous.
Yeah, Infamous looking good on the defense. It's actually, I mean, Lunaris is already to be very happy that he even got that first point, and then that 90.4% if you saw how that defense went. But Yeah, Infamous just still looking like the unit that they were on Ilios. The map type change hasn't really changed up their strategy. It's so far actually almost reinforced it. And the way that Lunaris is dealing with it is looking very confused. Their best method of dealing with Infamous so far has just to be, let's swap up a few heroes and hope they're not ready for it. That's really what it's been looking like, because every single time they lost a fight on B, they swapped up another DPS hero, swapped up this, swapped up that. And yes, there are heroes that can work better in non-ultimate situations, where you're not going to build up an ultimate anyway. Sometimes better to switch onto the Ashe or to the Hanzo, where you can do that poke damage, you can do that burst damage a bit better than a Tracer that puts yourself into harm's way. But on the other hand, if you don't really have a set play for it, if that's not like a strategy you've practiced, then is it really worth it? We talk about comfort picks versus, value picks, and in this situation, Lunaris is looking to go for comfort over value, and sometimes that can work, but apparently Infamous is ready for anything, because all Moose sees is tasty fishes.
Yep, and you've also got this potential Pharah play, which is going to be real spicy. We saw the Echo already, but we've got Pharah now coming out as well. A taste. Oh, but as I say that, Tree gets an early pick out the gate. What a great job getting that early.
What a spray as well. Nice tracking on that. Probably helped out by Light a little bit over Sluggo, but still.
Sai's going to be like, all right, I'm not going to play it any longer. Just definitely going to change it up here. And actually, Lunaris is doing very well on this defensive side. They're a little bit more coordinated. Unfortunately, Moose is going to get the hook, and then here comes the res once again by Kitty King, uncontested in the back, getting that res onto Cohesion, who is able to consistently pump damage. Sai's going to look for a flank, and this is now a take so rapidly from Infamous that Lunaris is just unfortunately finding themselves in a difficult place. Once again, do you focus Kitty in the back and leave yourself vulnerable and the res comes through? Or do you get those early picks like you did on Sai and then leave Kitty to get that res?
So far, Lunaris' attempts for dives or getting close to the enemy have all been from very far away. They don't get close enough to make that jump to really get onto Kitty King. Kitty King is so far back usually that there's always Moose, Sai, and Cohesion just in between them together with Infernal. There's always a bubble, a hook, or anything in the way. So unless they make a 6-man dive, they're never gonna get there.
Oh my goodness, Moose was just a pixel away from finding Light on that Ashe. And now as they continue to maintain this high ground position, Moose has been hit by the bio, which again, that is extremely critical for Sluggo to hit every time going into these fights. Hook comes out on the front side, does get shielded as well by Infernal and the Nano Boost. Nano Hog, but takes a nap and loses it. Great response. Sluggo coming in clutch here, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Noctis does force the res out along with also the Valkyrie. And this was a scrappy, heavily ult committed fight. And Lunaris actually pulls together here, and major props to the support line.
Yeah, they were really keeping each other alive. They didn't die in places where you really thought, oh, they're done. They're just completely done now. But the sleep darts, the hacks, the EMP, like it was all worked together to stop a lot of that rushing power that's actually on the side of Infamous. But there goes Light. We'll get rezzed up, but that's a tool you won't have for the rest of the fight. Less power to Noctis and Sluggo there. And now we see Cohesion and Infernal. They're ready.
Yep, throwing that bomb in the back corner early. It's going to draw a lot of attention here from Lunaris. Sai gets an early pick, though, onto Tree. So once again, numbers advantage, and Moose is going to play heavily forward, getting early advantage. And that consistent shield coverage from Infernal is always perfectly timed to deny any sort of retaliation against it. The grab now bringing that high ground position to the low ground, just misses it. And this is now the slow and steady take. You've got Infamous in a beautiful position to capture it. That's going to be 2 maps so far, as this next map will be Infernal's match point.
100%. And you can just see how good Infamous has become. They had a few weeks off after last Open Division, of course, which they could qualified for trials with, but they didn't just upgrade in just like as a team, they also had a few new members in. And sure, sometimes you say, okay, just have roster swap because someone left, etc. But they truly made an upgrade, it seems, with Infernal and with Moose. They don't even feel like playing Akash anymore at this point. And that's fine. Akash might just be like, you know what, main tanks aren't really a thing in the meta right now. Let you guys just play off tanks. This is what you're good at. That's what we're going to win games with. And well, so far they're proving us right. I like this tank line that is just enforcing that support line that was already there. That's enforcing what this front line of DPS can do. And all of that is just incredibly hard to deal with, because if all the other teams don't play Hog Zarya, they play Winston, if they play D.Va, if they play Wrecking Ball, then all of a sudden, if you have to play against a team like Infamous that do something so different to what everyone else does, you're really thrown for a loop, especially if you haven't been able to scrim anything like that.
Even further, the fact that you still have an individual sitting in the wings to play that role, if something comes up where you feel you need to try and counter with your own unique type of style and using more of that main tank role, you've got it. And that's a great way to feel moving forward into this. But before we get any further into the information and seeing what this next match is going to hold, we're going to go ahead and do a brief break, my friends. So stick around because we have so much more to come.
Big! Uprising Academy, they lay down the shatter, let the bodies hit the floor. Uprising Academy at 95%.
Right now with Hydra building up the Despair Barrage so quickly.
Oh!
And asking!
Double kill in the back with the pulse bomb from the high ground. Aerial assault with that mine.
Impact se escucha de va a gritar campeón a Sky Foxes.
Holy cow.
And after 42 consecutive losses, the Shanghai Dragons get their first win.
8 teams enter this weekend.
Oh no, Reinhardt, what are you doing?
We got a clip with minimal information. It's time to break it down. Speed, 25%. Go. Figure out what this man's SR is.
Keep fighting until it's for sure lost.
Winnable!
So you queue up for Overwatch Ranked, only to be greeted by this, which then leads to this, and oh no, Reinhardt, what are you doing? The solution? Elo Hell pickup games.
Hey, you know what? Just what you're doing.
Oh my god, it's huge! Oh! Kill!
Let's go! Open to players of all ranks and most platforms, Pugs give you the chance to experience competitive Overwatch as it was meant to be played. Competitively.
I need help.
I'm with you.
Shoot.
No way, dude.
Go. Let's go. Nice. Good call.
Players set their icons to indicate the role they want to play, then 2 captains pick their teammates and draft the most competitive teams they can. You can also take part in our pioneering learning event, Coached Pugs. To take part, join the Elo Hell Pickup Games Discord, and be sure to read the Pug Guide and FAQ. Good luck, have fun, and we'll see you in-game.
We're back, friends, here to bring you the remaining action of these 2 teams. We have Infamous already 2 maps ahead. First to 3 here, as Lunaris is going to now have to try and morale and regroup themselves to try and attempt this reverse sweep, to be very honest. They've already shown some acceleration to try and counter Infamous, but it has not fully been able to land and hit the mark. I'm your caster, Rich Rat, here with Man Class. We're going to be going into Hollywood, and what can Lunaris do here to really try and change the remaining maps up?
So, the problem that Lunaris has had to deal with, it's not simple. It's not like, oh, it's this player we have to focus, or oh, it's this one hero that's giving us trouble. No, it's a combination of things that is just this intricate puzzle that they have to try and solve within a limited time period. So you have Moose, who is playing Roadhog, which not a lot of teams do nowadays. I mean, you see it every now and then situationally, but Moose, as the Roadhog specialist, just brings it out whenever they can, which is, well, always. So that's the first part, right? Hero, you don't do often with, you have a specialist on it, you know, it's tricky. Then they're getting supported by Kitty King and Switch, who play in very unpredictable, uncatchable places that you cannot really dive to, and even if you want to dive to it, they're already somewhere else. And then you still have Inferno with bubbles, you still have Psi and Cohesion that do a lot of damage to you because they're giving the space because you're not really focusing on them because, you know, Roadhog supports Zarya. A lot of things are happening. So if you're Lunaris, you have to figure out some way to disrupt that rhythm. You have to figure out some way to get in there and make sure either Roadhog doesn't get value, the supports cannot fly everywhere, the damage dealers aren't as free as they are, and that's tricky to do with the composition that Lunaris has consistently brought out, which is very much mobility dive. But mobility dive is exactly what, you know, Infamous is counting on. So if you're the ones playing into their hands, that's never going to be the solution. You need to find some way to not play into Infamous's hands, and with some more range DPS that they were bringing out, that might be an answer.
Well, and also not only just the range DPS, but also this consistency from Sluggo. There have been multiple occasions where Moose has been bionated at a very low rate, and there's just unfortunately not the follow-through. And I think that's a little bit of the communication dynamic that I would like to see just sharpened slightly to compete against it. And as we take a look here, we've actually got now Lunaris on the defensive side first, with Infamous on the attack. So we're going to have that little bit of change-up. Infamous, you know, at this point on the attack, hovering Psy on the Widow. Would be interested to see if that actually holds true. But Lunaris is going to stick with this composition that we've seen consistently from them. And it's going to come down to refining this and making sure that they can find Switch and Kitty King in the back to start spreading through the rest of the composition from Infamous.
At least this time around, there is a clear choke and clear high grounds they can use to rotate around. I think that is really what's going to potentially play into their strengths. But, you know, that is not all that they potentially need. That's not all they have to work against. It's still going to be a doozy. And Volby, Sluggo, they got obliterated. This is done.
Yeah, speaking of the doozy, you had Tree waiting for the green light, and that green light stayed at yellow. And that's where now you have Infamous just taking the picks, numbers advantage, Moose on the front line, uncontested. It's just now going to be an easy take here. And with this attack, that was so well done. You're going to transition into this. There's a stagger now coming out from Lunaris, though, and I don't really know how I feel about this. You're just feeding ult charge to Infamous.
He could have been set up on high ground on B, Street's face. You know, it's super high, hard to get up there. Could have been completely ready for everything. Now maybe some of them wanted to swap off, but if it's only Light that's going to make a switch here, that was completely not worth to jump in there. I totally agree with you on that one.
Light going back on the Tracer now. So again, it's just this perplexity that they're feeling, and I mean, they have the right idea. They played it last round, and now going into this, the high ground's obtained by Infamous and a nice hack on Moose, but this is still going to be really challenging because Cohesion is pumping out so much damage and is unrivaled right now. And at this point, Lunaris is just trying to coordinate with a full 6.
We said that it was weird that they contested on A, and this is all still a ripple effect of going for that recontest. It's all still high ground control for Infamous for no good reason. Now you have to go through this alleyway against a close range comp. You just get EMP'd, taken out. It's not happening here for Lunaris. They're just getting pushed away because they're one decision to recontest A.
Well, and the other part too is you had the EMP committed by Tree, which still landed on half of Infamous. And you had Moose extremely low in the back, but again, there was just this scattered play from Lunaris where there wasn't a focus fire target, and it just allowed Infamous to recover from it.
Lights back on the Widowmaker again. They're trying to go for the recontest, but it's the H9 once again. The whole Hawk coming in clutch, throwing everyone off the payload. Why would you even need anything else anymore? Roadhog seems to be the masterminded pick that everyone should go for.
Yeah, I mean, let's be fair. You have favoritism. You love your Roadhog play. Well,
What do you mean? Don't look at my career profile. Don't do that. Don't be doing that.
I ain't gonna throw out hours. It's okay. We ain't gonna do that. That's where you cross the line. Because we would see far too many of me on Orisa, where now I'm a sad panda. As we got Sai now on this inner corner with Cohesion. You made the perfect description with the domino effect, and you've got this map being a constant reinforcement to that. Now with Sai getting the nano boost on the low ground, there's going to be so much extra damage. Moose moving into the side, cleaning up the supports, has to force the fade, and now that it's gone, the Death Blossom comes out. But a beautiful recovery here by Noctis to at least keep Sluggo and Noctis alive and allow that sound barrier to come through. Volby now having the reinforcement of not only the health from the primal range, but also from the sound barrier helps give a chance to reform here with Lunaris on the defense, but so many are low, and this payload is reaching that conclusion.
They finally got it though. They got Kitty King in that fight. Now Kitty King is on the Zenyatta. They finally make Infamous swap. Is it happening? Is Lunaris gonna hold for 4 minutes now?
I mean, it's a tall task to be had, but it is possible, especially in this choke point. Like we talked about earlier, Light gonna get a double kill here in the back with the Widowmaker uncontested because Infamous can't get close enough to compete against those sightlines. So now that it's been reset, 4 minutes now to go. That mountain is high, but I think they're ready to climb it.
And now we have Pure on the Zarya, getting high charge. Light has finally got a long quarter to snipe through. Finally actually has sticks on the Widowmaker. There's a lot of good things, but Moose just walks in there, gets the hook. The bubble was there, luckily. That's what Pure swap is really good for. But now the Bob is going to do a lot of zoning.
Beautiful bubble by Pure. Period, end of statement. That response was great and allowed them to stick into this. Kitty King gonna find Light though! Battle Mercy whipping out the pistol! And you've got Tree now using the duplication onto the Ashe to get Bob out quickly to set this up for another engagement. And Lunaris is already starting to be in a really great position. And I like this scrappy composition and the adoption of the Mercy with the Echo here.
Yeah, and I also really like that Pure is on that Zarya. Like I said, it was a beautiful reaction with that bubble, and I do think that Pure will be able to save a lot more members from hooks than they were on D.Va. That defense matrix range, ever since that got nerfed, that's really, really been playing against Pure this entire game so far.
Yeah, and with... Oh, beautiful pick by Light onto Cohesion. That's what you want, and forces out the res here. Oh, no, but Moose gets the pick onto Bulby. Ah, but there it is. You got this. You got the reses. It's the battle of the reses. That's what we're having here, friends. All those that are watching in, who's going to get the conclusive end? Sai on the front side starts to clean up. The Death Blossom with the whole hog makes sure to zone out all members of Lunaris. Even though Lunaris could not successfully hold, that was still a change in the right direction to really combat against Infamous, and I want to see that again.
We see promising results here for Lunaris. They're able to hold on for about 2 minutes there on that last point. Yes, they'd still complete the map with 2 minutes 34. There's still plenty of time left for Infamous, don't get me wrong. But Lunaris showing beacons of hope, finally trying to find that solution. Pure on the Zarya, give me more of that. I mean, not saying that D.Va is an invaluable hero, but it just didn't seem to get that much done against Infamous in the first place. So keep that Zarya going. Light on the Widowmaker, Tree on the Echo, that Mercy combination is a lot of fun iterations happening there, the composition, and you see it straight away. I mean, they're still in spawn. Don't get me wrong. They haven't walked out with it yet. But they do go for something similar. They're actually potentially going for their own Roadhog Zarya, but it's Infamous that we're looking at right now. Look at that. It's completely different. Moose on the Winston, Inferno on the Orisa. I guess you're smiling white now.
I really am. If only all of you could see my smile.
I mean, I can. I had the picture in picture.
You can feel it.
Right there,
oh my gosh, I love it. It's so bad. So seriously, the fact is, okay, let's be honest. You've got Infamous in a position where they can choose to be a little bit more risky in their compositions. They can try something different here because they're in such a position that they are. But with that being said, I still think this is an opportunity for Lunaris to also adapt and take advantage of this to start getting potentially momentum of their own.
Yeah, because will Infamous even expect this Roadhog Zarya combo? I don't think so. They haven't shown it all series long. Cohesion, though, does care. Punches it straight away, and Psy follows up.
Yep, and then you've got Infamous being obliterated with the focus beam close. When you're down that 50% health, the extra damage really hurts. But Kitty King gets a nice stability. Oh, and the napping Cohesion. The Doomfist is down. No backline harass present. And with those picks coming through, this is where Lunaris can take advantage of it, and I'm wondering how Infamous is going to respond with this point starting to be captured.
I mean, they hold so far forward, they can easily recontest their Cohesion on the Tracer will be back in time, but Moose might have to get rest here. We'll be able to get that off.
And does have the tank line again, back up for harassment. Cohesion getting absolutely just destroyed by that shrapnel to the face. Already at low health. Psy, this is once again, we got to talk about this. So it looks like that you've got Light focusing Psy because the hits can't counter, but with Psy getting so close, shutting down that Widowmaker makes it very challenging. And honestly, you've got a lot of time worn off the clock here from this regroup from Infamous. And I know we said earlier Lunaris shouldn't be doing it. I would say the same thing here for Infamous because now they've got staggers again and 5 minutes for Lunaris to push into this payload phase.
There was more viability to that recontest in the first place, though. Like, they had the proper respawns, they were there as a 6. They don't get this chance to really be on the high ground straight away, that's true. But they have a Winston that just jumps on an Echo, so, you know, really gives a hoot, you know?
Tree, why are you that far ahead, friend? Please slow down. You've got a chance here. As you've got Light in the back looking for some sight lines, gonna have a real hard time. Cohesion also gonna adopt this Widowmaker though, and have a Widow v Widow fight. But so those sight lines are gonna need to be very, very attentive on where the opposing side is. And honestly, at this point, it's just gonna be a slow and steady push through. You've got ultimates committed to this. Psy gonna force out the rocket barrage onto Light, but a nice response from Tree, and the duplication now with a sleeve dart in the air to keep Infamous in this.
Switch the sleep darts and the Winstons have been so clean today. The one on Ilios on the Lighthouse, the other one here. Switch has just been popping off on that Ana. I want to see Moose go. Like, I know Moose on Winston, that's the primal rage, but I kind of want to see Moose go over to that Roadhog and just tell Bulby that there is actually a Roadhog difference between these teams and that it is actually, in fact, Moose. I just want to see the Roadhog 1v1 at this point. Not for any other reason than just that.
I mean, again, we're not talking about your player profile or anything, but
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, why is Moose still on the wins? No, it's great. Let's see good grab come out here, though, but follow-up is actually there.
Okay, it comes through. Infamous does take down Bulby on this Roadhog. Noctis now forces out the Valkyrie here, though? I was a little overzealous in use. I feel that could have been so much more useful in this next engage.
Yeah, probably. Light now goes back over to the Tracer, doesn't want to take that battle with Cohesion on the high ground anymore. All they have to do is get out of spawn. It's apparently harder than it looks with Infamous holding up this close.
Yeah, you've got Cohesion looking for the shots necessary. You've got Moose on the Winston now demonstrating that they can play something more than just the Roadhog, as we've seen some great consistency. There's a follow-up onto Bulby, even a tactical crouch multiple times onto Bulby. And now you're at 2 minutes and 45 seconds. This is those critical moments where Lunaris has to get a pick and change this flow of momentum into their favor.
Yeah, all the ultimates have now finally been used, though, from Infamous. So that's something that you don't really have to worry about at the moment. But you don't want to have to use all those ultimates yourself to even get out of your spawn door. That is just devastating. Cohesion looking for that grapple shot. I like it when they hit those, but unfortunately there was nothing to be seen. Has spotted out Tree on this flank, though. Tree will go find another angle. They don't want to fight against the Widowmaker.
Look at how back in the back line this team of Infamous is. They are just swarming from all directions. That direct rocket onto Tree is only going to add insult to injury right now. Lunaris is completely surrounded by their opponent. And with Pure at least taking down, well, you know, Sai says otherwise and just gets rid of Pure. And now we're just going into lengthy, scrappy fights just to run the clock. Kitty! Kitty King! Kitty, why?
Because they can.
I mean, just... now here's the chance. Lunaris, this is their window.
Yeah.
They need to find every inch that they can get to reach this next checkpoint, because with 1 minute and 30, they still have a long way to go.
Oh, Light could have seen that Zarya in the hall there, but didn't, and the tanks are still behind them. Infernal and Moose, they can get a good flank off. They both have their ultimates. This could be a huge flank play. And it looks like they're gonna go for that as well, with that Graviton, with that Primal Rage. And there they are, on the points. Support's going.
Tree now going to try and give some assistance here. Again, you already have the support out of it. You're going to also force the Primal Rage with the Rocket Barrage in tandem to once again stagger out Lunaris. Light had the intel, knew that the tanks were in the back, and Lunaris could not respond to it just because of the dive that came through. And now we're in final fight territory here with this 60 seconds to go.
45 seconds almost on the clock still, and yeah, I mean, you have the tank ultimates. They're definitely great, but you're gonna have to fight against Switch, who's now back on that Zenyatta, and that Discord Orb is devastating to a Roadhog, devastating to a Zarya. The 3% extra, it adds up so much, especially if Kitty King just damage boosts Pharah. She hits a rocket on a with a discorded target. They're not gonna live. Or if you just do a right click on a
Beast should volley should no! Stop it! Stop it! They have families! Oh my goodness! No! No! Switch comes out at the tail end here on this Zenyatta, not bringing peace, but bringing the pain, and forces out the Transcendence just because you can? Oh my goodness, overtime. And I mean, Mana Class, this is gonna be a interesting final few moments.
Yeah. They're just all over the place. Like, at this point, this is not a team fight. This is just a lot of small things happening around the map. Infamous just playing with their food at this stage. Lunaris just has had no answer all series. Throw out the barrage. This is over, done, and dusted. Infamous. Wow.
Oh. Yo, we watching. All of us at home, here on the cast, even production. I'm so glad we had that POV. Major props to Prod giving us that sightline, because that was nutty. Okay, that's fine. We're gonna let you now keep the hot hands and leave with that. Even though it's gonna be play of the game, which is Pharah. Sai right at the end taking it with the quad kill, but that doesn't matter. We all got to see Switch shine today.
That was Switch. Yeah, that was Switch. I mean, as much as you might be expecting me saying that Moose 100% deserves MVP for a lot of reasons, no. Moose was just there doing his thing. Like, sure, they performed, but that support line, Kitty King and Switch, like, it's hard for me to pick between the two. I was like, oh, do I go Kitty King? Do I go Switch? And then Switch goes on Zenyatta, goes on that tear, goes with the Victory Transcendence. You know what? If you want MVP, you got it, my man.
I mean, overall well-rounded. Again, Lunaris really coming against a team that, despite their adjustment in the tank lineup, there was still so much synergy and coordination between them, and they really demonstrated that. Lunaris, like you said, had hopes of, and opportunities of better quality gameplay. They found their opportunities over the tank line. The supports were doing such a stellar job. I mean, honestly, there was just so much here. But again, before we end this for the night, we do have an interview here coming from our winning team. We are seeing who is going to be able to step up, because I'm curious, is it going to be Moose? Is it gonna be Switch?
who?
Is it gonna be? We just looking forward to it. So we are going to head to a brief break. We are curious to talk to this lovely, lovely team and find out more about them. So don't go anywhere because we would love to see exactly how they feel after that win. told you we'd be back. Wouldn't be long. And we've got our special guest here, and you are all wondering, who is it going to be? It's going to be the Roadhog player and some sprinkling of Winston in the end. It is Moose here coming out from Infamous, killing it with this team. Moose, pleasure having you here. Thank you so very much for your time. How are you feeling after that win here? 3-0, mind you.
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm also gotta eat some stuff faster after
Well,
eating
that's
them.
good. That's good. Well, I mean, you put on a very dominant display here with the Roadhog, and I know Mana Class, you're just super excited to see the Hog. Period. Understatement.
Always, yeah. I always excited to see Moose on Hog. Let's be real, but yeah, Moose, it's been a while. You know, it's we haven't I've missed you for a little bit. Did you have a little bit of a break from Overwatch, or some missing out of competition? Like, what made you come back? If that's so, like, what's going on?
I turned back to Valorant a few months ago. Just I did a break from OV, but turns out I'm not good at it, not having fun at it. So I went back to Overwatch. I played like last 2 trials too with Noble. Didn't age too well, but I'm confident we're gonna get contenders this season with Infamous, especially on a hog meta.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was
That's
gonna
odd,
say
man.
I've been there too. I'm really not great at that game either. I'll be honest. That's why I stick here, because I love this game. And
Same.
you right now are loving, I can guarantee, that Roadhog play, because you play it so well. And then also for you and your co-tank that have just recently kind of come together in this, team from Infamous. How are you feeling the synergy is with you both kind of being the newer addition to it?
I mean, I feel like our synergy was already there since we were both on Noble together, like
That's
Infernal and me. And the team is pretty open. They're all nice players, so they already had cool synergy, and they just put us in, and we're carrying, so that's fine.
They just know in the back, Switch and Kitty are just like, we got you.
I mean, after the dominance performance of Kitty King on the payload and the big Switch flanks on the Zenyatta, not much to tell about my backline, right?
Oh my goodness. We saw
No.
that right at the end on Hollywood, and I lost my mind from Switch. And you guys are probably just like, oh, just fragging out like Jonak up in here.
Yep.
Oh man, that was some insane play. So you talk about Inferno, Lies Bomb with them. Your backline is fragging. Do you feel like you even need a DPS anymore at this stage?
Honestly, yeah. Like right now, Ash
Yeah.
is pretty much the carry. Unless on maybe Hollywood First Point, where the market just exploded. Sometimes, it's hard to play against Ash on some maps, right? With the damage boost. They just kill everything, and you can't really do much against it with the backline and the tanks. So you gotta have your own DPS to dominate their DPS.
Well, I mean,
Fair enough.
ultimately, power to you, with the tank lineup, you two having synergy amongst yourselves, really finding your own amongst the rest of the team, and really enjoying your time playing. It definitely shows not only in just the way that you communicate with your players just from watching it, but also just the way that you have overall, done through this match today. And as you're going to continue on, and, we're looking to continue seeing you grow as not only a team, but just as players through this new patch, which has definitely thrown things for a loop. And it's a great one to take advantage of moving forward. So thank you so very much, Moose. We do appreciate your time speaking with us and giving a little bit of insight and having some fun with us here. So thank you so much, my friend.
All right, thanks for having me. It was
Yeah.
a honor to talk to you and the stream.
Awesome.
See you.
Definitely.
See you around.
See you later, my friend. And for all those that are tuning in, that are in the background saying, "Moo!" Yes, indeed. That's what we're all thinking. It is going to be interesting to see this team continue on through the days to come. We do still have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for NA Contenders trials that you can tune in and watch, find out all the information as well. Elo Hell, we just finished our Group A, so both have been completed for today. But tomorrow we still will have a pair of matches for you, so look for that tomorrow. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. It's been an absolute pleasure casting with you today, man of class, and the production giving us all the angles of the good sight lines and action being brought here. So we hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Take care, happy gaming, and have a pleasant evening, friends.